Present.
Mr. Lawless,
Present.
Mr. Newton,
Present.
and I, Ross Pepper, I am present. So we have a quorum, and we will begin. We need to vote on whether to have this meeting telephonically pursuant to the governor's order that we may do so. So I will entertain a motion that we conduct this meeting telephonically.
I make the motion that we conduct the meeting telephonically. It's Lawless.
Okay, Mr. Lawless has made the motion that we conduct the meeting telephonically. Is there a second?
I'll second, Christina.
Okay, Ms. Carpenter has seconded it. We'll take a vote on that. Ms. Davis, how do you vote?
In favor.
Ms. Carpenter?
In favor.
Mr. Lawless?
In favor.
And Mr. Newton?
Favor.
Okay, very good. That motion passes. We have no consent agenda this meeting, so we'll move right into the first case. Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah. I'm jumping ahead, sorry.
The Metropolitan Board of Zoning Appeals is now in session for the regularly scheduled meeting of September 3rd, 2020. My name is Lisa Minton. I will be presenting the case to the board for the review in today's public hearing. We are convened electronically pursuant to Governor Lee's executive orders number 16, 34, and 51 in order to protect the health, safety, and welfare of Tennesseans in light of the COVID-19 outbreak and still conduct essential business of the metropolitan government. Before we move on with the meeting, the governor's executive order requires a motion to proceed electronically, which is just taking place. In order to convene this meeting pursuant to that executive order, board members are participating remotely, and we encourage members of the public to submit comments and support or opposition to the board electronically at bza@nashville.gov. We extended the deadline to submit comments, and any comments received by 12 o'clock noon yesterday, Wednesday, September 2nd, were provided to the board for consideration prior to the hearing. Any comments received after 12 o'clock noon yesterday will be read into the record or provided to the board. Additionally, we have set up a voicemail box for members to leave a message for the board on any case called on today's docket. Any messages that we've received will be played with the board today. I'm here at the Sunny West Center today, located at 800 2nd Avenue South, and a station that's been set up for anyone who wishes to address the board. Additionally, the board vice chairman, Ross Pepper, is here, and social distance measures have been implemented. For these public hearings, the board reviews the correspondence submitted in support of and opposition to these cases. The board also reviews correspondence and recommendations from other government agencies in preparation for the hearing. In today's hearing, staff will present the site plans, maps, photographs, and other documents that comprise the case record. At the conclusion of the staff presentation, the appellant will present his or her case to the board. After the appellant's presentation, if anyone here is wishing to speak in support of the appeal, they may do so. If any opposition is present, the board will then hear from those parties. After the opposition presents its testimony, the appellant will have a period for rebuttal. According to the BZA rules, the appellant has 5 minutes for presentation if no opposition is present. In contested cases, the BZA rules allow 10 minutes for each side to present testimony. Should the appellant wish to provide rebuttal testimony, the appellant should reserve some portion of that allotted 10 minutes. At the conclusion of each hearing, the board will deliberate telephonically and then vote on the case. The board is vested with the power to act on these cases under the provisions of Metro Zoning Code Section 1740-180. All section numbers that we refer to come from the Metro Zoning Code, which applies to the entire jurisdiction of the metropolitan government. The zoning code was adopted by the Metro Council and became effective on January 1st, 1998. I will introduce the entire zoning code and make it part of today's record. The Metro Code requires a recording of these proceedings. Because BZA meetings are recorded for Metro National Network, because of public hearing cases telephonically, it's imperative that anyone addressing the board come forward to the podium here at the Sunny West Conference Room and speak into the microphone. All speakers should identify themselves by name and address and then make their desired presentation. The Metro Code requires 4 members of our 7-member board to establish a quorum. The code also requires at least 4 affirmative votes to grant an appeal. In the event that 5 or more members are present, but the appeal fails to receive 4 affirmative votes, the case will remain on the board's agenda for the next 30 days. Applications that fail to receive 4 affirmative votes within 30 days of the public hearing shall be deemed denied by operation of law. Pursuant to board rules, an aggrieved party may appeal board decisions to Chancery or Circuit Court within 60 days of the entry of the BZA order. Additionally, as per the BZA rules, an aggrieved party may file a motion for rehearing by the BZA within 60 days of the original hearing date. After that time elapses, the board's decision becomes final and no further action can be taken. If your appeal is granted, you are required to obtain the permit which you applied. The permit must be obtained within 2 years for board approval to remain valid. It should also be noted that if false and misleading testimony is presented to the board, any board approval could be revoked at a later date by means of a show cause hearing before the BZA. Mr. Vice Chairman, I submit that all cases have been filed in proper order, all appellants have been notified by certified mail, and all legal notice requirements have been fulfilled.
Okay, thank you. So we will start with our first case, 2020-176. Is the applicant here?
We have a notice. Before we begin with the first case, we do have a preliminary announcement.
Okay, sure.
Case 2020-075 for 5670 Granny White Pike was a case that was tentatively deferred. It has been deferred indefinitely at this point. It was a variance from a sign requirement for Bethel Chapel, and they have requested to defer it indefinitely, which will require a renotice and new neighboring letters and signs when it's placed back on the docket. And as Vice Counsel said, we do not have any consent agenda, so we will go ahead and start with the cases. First case, 2020-176, located at 2404 A and B Middle Street.
Is there, before we start, is there any opposition to this case? Okay, being none, you'll have 5 minutes to make your presentation.
I will first go through the slides and introduce the case, and then you'll have the opportunity to speak. Here's the parcel viewer showing the location of the R6 zone property. There's the aerial view. There's a site plan. They're seeking a variance from the 20-foot rear setback requirements and are requesting a 10-foot rear setback within the R6 district to construct 2 single-family residences. And this is their proposed site plan that they provided. There's a view of the property as it exists today. There are views of the surrounding properties. The appellant may now introduce yourself, your address, and then present your case.
My name is Tyler Antonakis. I'm located at 433 Whitley Way, Mount Juliet, Tennessee.
Sir, can you speak up some, because many of the board members, I've been there the last few weeks where we're listening in, and it's hard to hear. So if you can help us out and speak up, that would be great.
My name is Tyler Antonakis, and I'm located at 433 Whitley Way, Mount Juliet, Tennessee. So what we're proposing here is the 10-foot or the 20-foot setback to be altered to a 10-foot setback from the alley that is an overgrown alley in the back. It's not maintained or anything. The reason we're doing this, there is a 20-foot sewer easement running down the side of the property that did not come up in a survey or any record until we were getting our final stormwater permit, and it hindered our whole project, obviously. And I can build this in a zone with the 20-foot setback, but those 2 houses would almost be like 10 feet apart, and it'd be super close. I think it would take away from the aesthetic of the neighborhood, where there's multiple side-by-side 2 builds and a couple of front and back 2 builds, flag lots. This proposal, what we did is we altered it and actually made the houses a little smaller so we can make it more affordable, not completely in the low 300s versus the high 400s, which is typically listed over there, to allow some little better entry to the neighborhood. The street's a beautiful street and we want to keep the aesthetic up. That's kind of our whole proposal. Never done this before, so.
Okay, we will open it up to questions from the board members. And I do not see on my screen where I can see people raising their hands. So. So board members, if you'll hold tight for just a second, they're fixing my monitor so I can see who's raising their hand.
Yeah.
Okay, I see it now. Any questions for the applicant from the board? I have one. So I see that you have this easement, which goes all the way from the front to the back of the property that's 20 inches wide, and I get that, and I think that is a unique characteristic in a hardship. My question is, why do you need the variance? Could you not build one building and maintain the 20-foot setback?
We could, but it wouldn't happen because the project wouldn't be feasible if you build that. Like, the land would truthfully just stay vacant at that point. We couldn't do it.
Why is that?
Cost to build versus the purchase price of the lot. If I built one house on that, I'd have to sell it for probably $500,000 to break even, and the prices in that neighborhood are around $400 max. And so we're trying to get the low, more affordable income in the 300s, where we can make it in a feasible project. And it's a 20. You accidentally said 20 inches. I just want to make sure you knew it was 20 feet.
Right, 20 feet.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I misspoke about that. Well, okay, but I mean, you could build one building and maintain the setback.
You could, and the original house that was on it actually went over the easement, because there was an original house when we purchased it before we tore it down and found all this out later, unfortunately. But it went directly over the easement, and the proposed, because when I was talking to the councilman, she even thought about abandoning the alley completely since it's overgrown. And if she would have, we would just naturally have the 10 feet back. So that was a thought process of hers, but I don't know where that stands today. And versus trying to talk to every homeowner and say, hey, y'all need to abandon an alley, and explain that process, why that's good and bad for them, I thought this was more appropriate, and it keeps in line with all the other buildings.
Okay, let's see if anybody, Mr. Lawless, you have a question?
Can I see the street view again, please?
Sure.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ms. Carbonek?
I think the applicant can actually build 2 homes on this site. Asking for more of for the one in the back to be separated more from the one in the front. Is that correct, applicant?
Yes, ma'am. Just for more aesthetic, we could build them, and the back deck from the front home would be within probably 10 to 8 feet of the rear home. And from an aesthetic standpoint, when that street's a beautiful street, you can see some of the homes on it. I think it would take away greatly, and I don't want to change the aesthetic when I would prefer to just have it so you can visibly see 2 houses and then not block one and the other.
And you said you spoke to your council person?
Yes, ma'am.
And your council person seemed to be in favor, or?
Sorry, say that one more time. You kind of broke up there.
Sure. Was your council person in favor of the project or not?
She said she saw no problems with it, and that because she even thought about giving the land, like I said, to the all the homeowners and abandoning that alley.
Ms. Carpenter, do you have any other questions?
Not at this time.
Okay. Looks like Mr. Lawless has his hand up, and so does Mr. Davis. So, Mr. Lawless, I think you had yours up first.
Well, but I'll always defer to Ms. Davis.
Okay. Well, Ms. Davis, you're being deferred to, so you can have the mic.
I appreciate that. Thank you, Mr. Lawless. My only question was for the applicant, the dimensions of the lot. How many square footage is the lot?
I believe it's 50 by 150 or 50 by 125. Hold on, let me look at it on the old sheet in here, I believe. Of course, the picture I brought in doesn't have that on there. I know it's 50 by, it's on that picture. Can we bring up that?
You can't really read it.
Yeah, I tried to figure it out from my packet, and I think you're right. It's probably about 50 feet wide. I just was, how deep is it back? But I mean, 125 or 150, that's okay if you don't know exactly. I was just trying to get an idea more of the width, and you gave me that, so thanks.
Thank you.
And Mr. Lawless, I'm done, so if you want to ask your question.
Thank you, ma'am. This for the applicant. Which neighbors did you talk with, if any, or did you just defer to come before us?
So when I originally thought about trying to get the alley abandoned, I talked to a couple of neighbors. We sent out letters to them just seeing if they would be in favor or not in favor. And I had about 3 get back to me. And this was probably 6 months ago when we did that. So I don't have their names or anything in front of me. I'm sorry. This is my first process doing this. So I didn't know I would need that. And through the rest of the process, I just went through the appeal process and asked what I needed to do. And I didn't know I needed to actually talk to any neighbors, but we sent all of them a letter and everything that we were required to do immediately. But I have not spoken to any else outside of that.
Okay, so you haven't had any community meetings or anything like that with any of the neighbors?
No, and now I do have a neighbor who is a personal friend down the street, and I manage a property for the owner across the street, so I do know them personally. But that's my whole communication.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions from the board? Okay, we will close the public hearing at this point, and the board can discuss. Thoughts? Any board members? Ms. Carpenter?
Well, I'll have to say I'm a fan of 2 homes on one lot back to back like this, just as an architect. But I do see other in the neighborhood are building 2 on one lot, and this is prohibiting this applicant from doing the same, building them side by side. So, and I think he can build them anyway. He just wants to separate the 2 structures from each other. And with the alley being in the back, that gives more space between the second structure in the back and any neighboring property behind it. So I think I would be in favor of the variance request.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Carpenter. Ms. Davis?
So, Mr. Vice Chair, your question that got me and that it makes me struggle with this is the reasons for the hardship are really financially based. Like, I recognize that there's a sewer line that's on the property, but that didn't make the lot unbuildable. It just is unbuildable based off of their desires. And I've said this before, but like certain horses are made for certain courses, and I realize what's going on in the neighborhood, but maybe the other lots in the neighborhood aren't like this one. So that's why they were able to do it and this one wasn't. So sort of the financial argument and the price point and not being able to build within the sort of the budget that they set for the project, that makes me lean towards more this not being a hardship and it more being more self-imposed. And it's not really the sewer line that's the hardship, it's what their desires for the lot are that created the hardship. So I'm sort of struggling with that, but I'm still listening. And, you know, if my colleagues have something else to say, I'm still open and sort of mulling.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Lawless, I think you have your hand up.
I'm still having a difficult time, as Ms. Davis was. It's an economic hardship versus topography or things like that, which is what we normally deal with. I appreciate the price points. I appreciate trying to get a house that's or two houses that are in the 300 range. But what does that do to the other folks that may not have done that? Does that affect them adversely or not? So, I mean, it's a self-imposed hardship, actually, in my opinion, and I'm having a real tough time overcoming that. That's just my thoughts at this point. I haven't been convinced one way or the other than to go the way I am going.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Lawless. Ms. Carpenter, your hand is up. Did you want to speak again, or is it just?
Accidentally up. Thank you for asking. I'll put it down now.
Okay. I tend to have the same thoughts as Ms. Davis and Mr. Lawless. I think that there is a 20-foot wide sewer easement that runs the course of the side of the property, but the lot is still very buildable, both from one resident. You could build one home there or two, as Ms. Carpenter pointed out. You could move them closer together. So I think we have to find a hardship that justifies this, and I'm struggling too, because I think the lot is still very buildable, and the setback is really, it seems to me like it's requested because you've got a reduction in the buildable square footage of the lot in one sense, because you've got this sewer easement you can't build over. But I'm also not seeing a hardship that justifies approving varying the setback by 10 feet, but that's the way I see it now. I'm certainly open to hearing from other members. Ms. Carpenter.
Well, I'll say that I guess he's not really prohibited from building the 2-on-1 lot. And so if we granted him this setback variance, it would just make the space between the two homes a bit of a nicer space. Still don't like the configuration myself, but that's my own personal opinion. But I do think he can build them regardless of whether or not we grant this variance request. I think this would make it a little better for the occupants of both homes. And to me, he's not allowed to build on that sewer easement. So to me, that's the hardship.
Thank you. And yeah, I definitely see the sewer easement as a hardship. I think that it just seems like that hardship's becoming a self-imposed hardship because of the site design. And I understand, I think there's a lot of merit to the argument that these are more livable residences if they're further apart. But I'm still struggling with it in terms of what, as a board member, I feel like I'm required to see before we grant a variance. And you also, and understand that there's a price point that the applicant wants to keep the homes within, but that's really something we shouldn't be considering. And if you build one residence here, then you don't have that issue about, you know, two families living on the same lot and having to create space between them. So, you know, I think the way I see it is I think there is a hardship, but I don't think that it justifies us granting a 50% reduction in the, which is what it is. We're going from 20 feet to 10 feet. So that's kind of how I come out on it. I'm still willing to hear from any other board members or entertain a motion. Mr. Lawless.
Well, I hate to do this again. I see Ms. Davis's hand up, and you know I am being somewhat chauvinistic by saying I always defer to Ms. Davis.
Okay, well, Ms. Davis, you're back on deck then.
I appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Lawless. I think Mr. Lawless and I, if I'm anticipating this correctly, we're both going to make a motion that we deny the variance as requested, given that the hardship, explained by the applicant wasn't necessarily related to like a true hardship to the land, that the real hardship was related to economics, which is something that we typically do not consider. So for those reasons, I make a motion that we deny the variance as requested.
Okay, we have a motion.
I'll second that one.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to deny the application. Is there any discussion on the motion before we move to a vote? Okay, I don't see anybody's hands up, so I will take a vote on the motion. Ms. Davis, how do you vote?
In favor.
Ms. Carpeneck?
Opposed.
Mr. Lawless?
In favor.
Mr. Newton?
Opposed.
And I vote in favor. So
there's not a quorum, so
we don't have the 4 votes, so that would be, it will be continued for 30 days. So you have 30 days. I'm speaking to that, but you have 30.
Chairman, Vice Chairman, this is Quan Poole from Metro Legal. Obviously, there's always the opportunity to take another vote, but doesn't appear that taking a second vote or taking a second motion would change anything, but I just want to make sure that it was on the record that is an option in addition to what you were going to advise to the applicant.
Correct, yes. There's only one member that's not here, so unless, even if that member voted in favor, you still would lack a vote. So I think that's what Mr. Poole is trying to point out. Okay, so next case.
So there will be a vote at the 9/17 meeting. The case will not be reopened, but they will re-vote at that point.
Okay, so they'll re-vote on 9/17, but I don't get to make any statements or anything?
Correct. Okay. The next case to be heard is case 2020-177. Is there anyone here in opposition to this case at 421 Veritas? Is the applicant here? 421 Veritas. Okay, I will review the case and the slides, and then the board will determine.
The applicant is not here.
Applicant, case 2020-177, 421 Veritas.
Given that this is the first setting, the board, of course, has the option to proceed or the option to defer to a later date. Again, this is the first setting.
Sure. Is there any possibility that the applicant is outside? Or?
The applicant was sending a representative. I believe we received an email, and they are not present at this point. So I'll review the case, and then we will ask one more time. They're requesting a variance from the building frontage width at the street setback and the location of the parking within an OR 20 district. The required parking is required in the sides and the rear with a limited front parking area, and they're requesting that all the parking be located in the front of the building. In regards to the 100% building frontage requirement, they're requesting, in essence, a 5-foot side setback for each side of the building, which would result in an 80% frontage building rather than the required 100%. Again, is anyone here to?
So no one's here. I will move to defer that one meeting.
Okay.
Is there a second?
This is Shanti Davis. I'll second.
I'll second.
All right, we'll take a vote to defer case 220-177 until the next meeting. Ms. Davis, how do you vote?
In favor.
Ms. Carpenek?
In favor.
Mr. Lawless?
In favor.
Mr. Newton?
In favor.
And I vote in favor, so that motion passes. So case 177 is deferred until the next meeting.
The next case, case 2020-178, located at 1638B, 54th Avenue North. Is anyone here in opposition to this case? Nope, the applicant is present. I will go over summarize the case and then please proceed. They're requesting a variance from an interior parking area tree island requirement within the SP district. They're constructing a multifamily development. They're requesting full relief from the interior parking area tree island due to light poles and transformers that have been installed within the island. You may please come forward. I will show some pictures. Here's the parcel viewer showing the parcel and highlighted in pink. That's an SP zone property. It's the aerial. It's the site plan showing the island. There are photos provided showing what was installed in those islands. And I believe this is the construction in the Parks Committee. Please state your name, address. Okay.
Thank you. My name is John Gore. I'm with Barnes Coffin Civil Engineers. We're located at 6606 Charlotte Pike. This is a project that is a zone SP. It's fully complete.
Can we get a little closer to the microphone, please?
Sure. Is it better?
A little bit.
Turn the one on.
I was speaking to the wrong microphone. Is this better?
Much better, thank you.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate the board's time today. This is a project that is a condominium development. It is fully complete and fully occupied. It was received very well and has sold out. It's on 2.4 acres off of 54th Avenue North. That is in some of the areas in the nations that are redeveloping. So this site is between Centennial Boulevard and the Cumberland River. You can kind of picture that area. This, let's say, site is complete, and these are some issues that arose during in the field during construction. And when the contractor had gone for a final sign-off, the issues were raised by the Urban Forestry Department of Metro Codes, and they requested that we seek a variance from this board. If you're seeing the site plan on the screen, you see a green island that's kind of highlighted in the middle of the parking lot. The issue here is that the green island was positioned there. You're probably familiar that there's a requirement in Metro Codes that there is a tree for every 15 parking spaces in a parking lot. So this island that's in the center of the parking lot, that's its need to be there because of the interior planting requirements. There was confusion as construction started with NES about where a transformer could be located. There was an assumption that it could be located on the outside of the parking lot away from this island. But once site work was complete and the islands were all laid out and NES began to mobilize and lay out the transformer and the other electrical equipment, it was determined for technical electrical reasons that the transformer needed to be in this island. The contractor discussed that with NES. They knew that the island was important from a landscape code requirement perspective. So the island was widened, made kind of into a double island. So if you can see on the site plan, normally a landscape island is the same width as a parking space, 8 or 9 feet. And so in the field, to kind of adapt to this issue, the contractor widened the island to about 16 feet to make room. The second thing that came up is that the assumption was from the electrical contractor was that the primary would just go straight to a transformer, which could be situated in the center of the island. But it turned out, again, for some technical reasons, that a switch was required. So if you're looking at the pictures, you're going to see two electrical boxes. The smaller green box is a switch. So the primary first goes to the switch before it goes to the transformer. So we ended up with these two pieces of equipment in the center of the island. Again, the island was as large as much as possible, but at this point, there's code parking requirements for the condo units, and then also, of course, obligations to the people who bought the condominiums for a certain amount of parking spaces. So it was unable to take out any more parking spaces beyond this.
So just to be clear here, there are 2 islands at issue, correct?
Correct.
That are supposed to be just trees, but you end up with utilities in both the islands.
Correct.
Did you widen both of the islands by about?
We widened the island for the transformer. I haven't gotten to the second island yet, but we widened the island with the transformers to make it doubly wide. My understanding from our landscape architect is that, strictly speaking, from a code perspective, a island has to have 90 square feet of planting for each tree. So we do meet that requirement from the zoning ordinance, but our understanding is that the Urban Forestry Department also has kind of a rule of thumb that they don't like utilities in the same island, and that's I guess, what the appeal is centered around. The second island in question is the one that's at the top of your screen. There's a light pole base that's also within the same island as a second tree that's required for code. Again, this tree does meet the 90 square foot of planting area that's spelled out in the zoning ordinance, but it doesn't meet the urban forester's policy about utilities within the island.
Was that island widened or made bigger too?
This one was not. Again, we ran up against when the condos are sold originally, there's an obligation to each condo member for a certain amount of parking spaces, and the spaces are numbered. So when you get a condo, you get a certain space or two depending on your condo with each. And we are 100% out of parking spaces. So this one actually did not get widened because we had met all of the obligations to all the parking spaces. We've looked all over the site. It's a very constricted site. Where else could we add a parking space or two, still meet the requirements of the zoning ordinance, and there's just nowhere else on the site that we can add a space. We've looked at issues, looked at opportunities to do something with the transformer, but you can imagine once the transformer's in and powered and everybody's moved in, it's very disruptive to do anything to the electrical equipment. We offered some solutions to the Urban Forestry Department to build some additional or plant some additional trees in other parts of the site that just, at least in kind of good faith, meet the intent of the code as much as possible. But they felt like that the site's got a lot of trees because it's got some buffers that are also planted. So it's a pretty small site, and there's about 40 trees, new trees planted. So I don't think they felt like any additional trees were needed. But they felt like having the utilities within the islands warranted an appeal, again, based on kind of their informal rule about utilities in an island.
Okay, so Mr. Ford, a question I have for you is, did you know about that this was not in compliance with the code before the utilities were installed?
I think this is an issue where, the site was already laid out. There's probably masqueraded time that, NES came out to start laying out paths and utilities that came up, and it just didn't feel like there was enough time without stopping NES and sending them back and creating a big delay, that they just needed to adapt the best they could and not disrupt NES's work. So I think that's when the decision was made to double the island width to try to felt like they were meeting the intent of the code.
Did y'all consult with the urban forester at that point when you knew you were not in compliance with the code and say, what can we do at this point?
I don't believe that additional plans were submitted. I think that maybe the urban foresters inspectors spoke to the contractor in the field, but I don't think that a redesign or new plans were approved.
Okay. And you've had your 5 minutes, but
okay.
So you can stay up here because the board members may have questions for you. So.
Okay.
And there is no opposition here, correct? So, okay. So we'll now close the public hearing, and do any of the board members have questions for Mr. Gore, the applicant? Mr. Newton?
Yes. So you said it was an informal rule that the open forest storage enforcing here. Did he have any kind of anything that was like a actual rule that he's enforcing here? Or like how is he denying your permit here based on this?
I think in kind of good faith with the urban forester's intent is, of course, he wants to see a situation where a tree can thrive and not, have health issues later on. I think the question from my perspective is, as an island gets bigger and bigger, it would seem to me that at some point there's a reasonable size there where you could have an island and have utilities. So the island's 5 feet wide or 10 feet wide or 15 feet wide. In my mind, at some point, an island is big enough where the tree and the utilities can coincide. But again, my understanding is that what's spelled out in the zoning code is 90 square foot per tree, but that this is kind of a guideline that's been adopted by the inspectors in the department.
Okay, thank you. And is there, I guess, a follow-up to that is there, you mentioned that you guys had offered to plant trees elsewhere on the site. Is there anything the urban forester offered that would clear this up, or was there anything besides? I mean, I guess what did he provide a solution to you guys? I know that's not really what he does, but did he do?
We talked about solutions. Again, we will be glad to plant as many trees all day as they would like, that we have space for. I think we realized that an option that deconstructs the transformers and de-energizes and tries to move is very difficult and disruptive. So I think everybody understood that was probably not a realistic solution. So I think that they felt like the additional trees weren't necessarily warranted, but that they just felt like an appeal would kind of close the case from their perspective. So we, again, kind of sent some sketches and offered some extra trees here and there, and it didn't seem like that the total, again, there's 40 trees on what's a pretty small site. So I think that they felt like all in all, the site was well planted and well landscaped, but that there was just a question about these two islands that warranted an appeal.
Mr. Newton, do you have any further questions?
No, that's it. Thanks.
Okay, Mr. Lawless, you have your hand up.
Yes, sir. So as I understand it, the location in this big island area was where NES wanted them, and that's where they started plunking their stuff. Is that correct?
Where NES wanted their equipment, yes, there was an island there and the transformer, and then the apparent additional need for a switch beside the transformer was driven by NES's design. And apparently they have some lesser setbacks. I believe they need vegetation 3 feet away from their equipment. So that's what they were asking for, but that's, I guess, separate from the intent of the urban forester.
Well, usually my understanding in dealing with our friends at NES is what they want, they usually get, but everything else sort of is not that relevant. And these transformers and the switch deals with all the people in this particular community area, correct?
Yes, the transformer feeds everybody and everybody in it.
Okay, all right. I think that sort of took care of my questions. Thank you, sir.
Any other questions from board members? Ms. Carbonet?
I need a little bit of a clarification. I do see trees planted in both those islands. Is there a need for additional trees, and that's what we're deciding upon, or is there a fear that those trees that are planted are not going to make it?
The second item is correct. The trees that are planted are the number of trees and the caliber of trees that meet the code. What's being appealed is the fact that there is other utility equipment within the same island. And I believe from talking to the urban forester, for light poles, it's not, the conduits going into a light pole are very small, usually 2-inch conduits. So they're not something that's going to take up a lot of space in the ground. I think, again, the concern is that if the light pole is too close to a tree, then perhaps the trees blocking the light or vice versa, that sort of thing. But like I said, we felt like in this case that the utilities and trees are spread out enough to meet the intent of both the lighting and the landscape code.
And I understand that y'all felt that way, but obviously the urban forester did not feel that way because he or she is not okay with this.
We understand.
Yeah. Any other questions from the board? Ms. Carpenter?
Are there different types of trees that could be planted instead of these ones? Ones that are more slender or?
That's a good question. I believe that the need is driven more by kind of the root ball and what's happening below grade than necessarily the shape above grade. But like I say, I'm not sure if a different species would satisfy the urban forester. I don't believe so. I mean, these are actually new trees. The first trees that had got planted, this project finished up, right in June and July. And the first trees that got planted just right in the middle of summer were struggling. So these trees were actually replaced with new trees maybe 2 months ago. And I don't think option to do a different species, as I understood, was on the table or would have mattered, but it's not something we had asked about.
Thanks.
Okay. Any other questions from the board? Okay, I don't see any, so we will close the public hearing. Thank you, Mr. Gore, and we will discuss. So, members of the board. Mr. Newton.
My general thoughts are kind of similar to what Mr. Lawless mentioned earlier, that NES kind of does what NES wants, and and all the utilities kind of do what they want and on their own schedule. And so I know that's a difficulty for the group that's working around that. And it sounds to me like they've tried to find a solution, and there's no reasonable solution other than this variance. So I don't understand what they would do if this is not granted. I mean, clearly moving the transformers is not really an option. And I hope these trees live. They may not. I don't know, but I feel like the applicant has done their duty in trying to find a solution here, and that's kind of my general thought on it.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Newton. Mr. Lawless?
I'm going to make a motion that we approve the variance based on the location being decided on by NES, which was outside the control of the applicant, that the entire residents around there benefit, and that there's no other alternative at this point in time. So I'm going to make a motion that we grant it.
Okay, Mr. Lawless has made a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, Mr. Newton has seconded it. So any discussion? So I have some discussion, and my thought on this is I understand the dilemma with NES, but I'm really struggling with this because to me it's clearly a case of asking for forgiveness after the fact. I don't see a hardship. If there is a hardship, I think it's self-imposed. I do think Mr. Newton and Mr. Lawless make a very compelling point, which is the developers, to some extent or to a great extent, subject to what NES does. But my problem with this is that as a board member, if there's not a hardship or if it's self-imposed, the fact that we have two governmental agencies here, one, our urban forester, who is not okay with this, but then we have a utility that's essentially, what we're being told is this result is dictated essentially by NES. So I will not be voting for the motion. So that's my discussion. Does anybody else have any comments to make before we call the vote? Ms. Davis?
I was sort of struggling with this, and that's why I was listening to the discussion. And I just wanted to say that I agree with you that I do believe Mr. Lawless and Mr. Newton presented a very compelling argument in favor of the variance, but I'm inclined to agree with you that it seems like this is a ask for forgiveness after you've already sort of went down a certain path. So I will likely vote with you.
Okay, any other discussion before we vote on this motion? Okay, so the motion before the board is to approve the variance. Ms. Davis, how do you vote?
Opposed.
Ms. Carpenack?
In favor.
Mr. Lawless?
In favor.
Mr. Newton?
In favor.
And I'm opposed. So by my count, is that 3 votes to 2? Okay, that's 3 votes to 2. So that motion does not pass, and it will. There is one board to the applicant. There is one board member, Mr. Taylor, who is not here. So you are deferred for up to 30 days. Correct. You have 30 days to bring it back up for a vote. So you had. How many, what was the vote? I'm sorry, I wrote
3-2.
3-2, 3-4 for the motion, 3, right? So if Mr. Taylor were to vote for that motion, then you would pass. So, and he's not here. So
again, at the September 17th meeting, they will vote, and we'll proceed that way.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Our final case this afternoon is case 2020-175, located at 522 Wesley Avenue. Is there anyone here in opposition to the case? The applicant is here. Okay, I will review the case, and then if you will step, actually, I'll introduce the case, and then our representative from the short-term rental department will add some additional information. This case is an item A appeal challenging the zoning administrator's denial of a short-term rental permit. The appellant operated on an expired permit within the RS10 district, and this is a non-owner occupied permit. Mr. McBroom will now proceed.
Good afternoon, board. Can you hear me?
We can.
Are the members of the board able to hear me?
I think they are. Yeah.
I'm good.
On March 31st of 2017, non-owner occupied permit was issued. On April the 2nd of 2018, and again on April the 9th of 2019, the permit was renewed. On March 31st of 2020, the permit expired. On June 9th of 2020, notice of violation was sent by Inspector John Phelps. On July the 11th and 12th of 2020, the website advertisements were removed. On July the 23rd of 2020, the BZA appeal was filed. Pardon me. There were 3 documented stays after the permit expired, all of which were in June of 2020. There was 1 documented complaint on the property, which was serious in nature, concerning an incident that allegedly took place at the property.
Okay. Is the applicant here? Okay. If you'll step up here, please, sir.
While the applicant is stepping forward, I do want to mention that the board did receive a letter, an email that was sent in, and it was added to your packets this morning, I believe. So I just want to make sure that on the record we did have 1 email that was received in response to this case.
Okay. And that will be made part of the record?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, you can go ahead. State your name, please.
Yes, sir. My name is Pete Blankenship.
Mr. Blankenship, you're going to need to speak up quite a bit.
Your papers.
I apologize.
That's the microphone.
I apologize. Can everyone hear me well on the board? Good deal. So my name is Pete Blankenship. I'm the representative for a company Vacasa, which is the property management company for this short-term rental located at 522 Wesley Avenue. Vacasa has managed this unit since October of 2018. And I just want to restate the permit was issued on 3/31/2017. The 2017 code was not in effect until a full month after this permit was issued on 4/28/2017. The code which covers this unit is the September 16, 2016 code. Vacasa received actual notice of the potential violation on July 7th, just 2 days prior to the July 9th deadline to correct the violation. The notice to correct violation directed Ms. Conrad only to remove ads from Booking.com, Airbnb, and HomeAway. We have since learned that the property owner, Ms. Conrad, an 89-year-old woman living in Oregon, received the notice sometime in June, but did not understand its contents. She mailed the notice to her grandson, Mr. Conrad, who then attempted to contact Vacasa's local operations manager. However, at the time, the local operations manager was absent on an extended personal leave. Mr. Conrad then emailed Vacasa's general manager on July 7th at 8:48 p.m. Once Vacasa received notice of the violation again late in the day on July 7th, we took down all internet listings and canceled existing reservations for the property, thereby correcting the violation in the notice prior to the July 9th deadline. We have not rented the property since we received notice of potential violation, and attempts have been made to renew the STRP permit before we rent again. Prior to July 9th, the date before when the notice said the violation had to be corrected, Mr. Conrad attempted to renew the permit, but was told by city staff that renewal was not allowed, and an appeal was the only option. Vacasa also attempted to renew the permit on July 9th, but was told by the zoning examiner, Robert Osborne, that we cannot renew the permit at this point, with no other explanation given. I'm here to make the case that the revocation of the property owner's STRP permit should be invalidated and that the owner should be allowed to immediately renew the permit in accordance with the code of ordinances that existed at the time the property began being used as a short-term rental unit. We know from previous proceedings before the board that the board understands that the state law dictates which version of the code of ordinances governs the use of the property as a short-term rental unit. I only wish to show you that the state law and the applicable version of the Nashville Code of Ordinances work together to allow the immediate renewal of this particular property's short-term rental permit. First, state law, specifically section 10-7-603, states that the ordinance in effect at the time the property began using the short-term rental unit is the law that governs the unit as a short-term rental. The short-term rental ordinance in effect when this particular property began using the rental was Chapter 6-28-030 of the 2016 Metro Government of Nashville and Davidson County Code. However, the notice of violation Ms. Conrad received at her home in Oregon cites section 17.16.07.0.1a of the current code, which did not exist at the time the property began operating the use as a short-term rental. The notice of violation therefore cites the code section inapplicable to the short-term rental and thus invalid. Under the 2016 code, a STRP permit cannot be revoked without proper notice to the permit holder, and this notice was clearly not proper. However, even the notice had been valid, Vacasa ensured compliance with the notice prior to July 9th by removing ads from Booking.com, Airbnb, HomeAway, as the notice clearly stated. Vacasa has not advertised or rented this property as a short-term rental before the deadline to correct the violation. So despite correcting the violation as directed in the notice, the city has revoked the permit and will not allow Vacasa or the Conrads to renew it. In conclusion, nothing in the notice or in the applicable 2016 code prevents this permit from being renewed. Second, the applicable 2016 code, had it been violated, requires a 1-year waiting period upon revocation of the STRP permit before a new permit or the same property can be issued. However, a subsequent state law invalidated this 1-year waiting period, specifically section 13-7-604B allows a local governing body to suspend the continued use of a short-term rental permit, but only during the time that the unit does not maintain a permit. Furthermore, the same law also says that nothing in this subsection extinguishes a provider's right to continued use
of the property as a short-term rental unit, unless the property has been in violation of a general applicable Local 3 or more separate times. Local Law 3 or more separate times. The word continued use are the operable terms here. Continue is commonly defined as without a break, and continuity or ongoing. A one-year waiting period is clearly a break in continuity, and thus a violation of state law. The state law also allows property owners to challenge the prohibition, regulation, suspension, or regulation as in conflict with the park through a civil action or appeal. A one-year waiting period is certainly a suspension of an owner's right to continued use of a property as a short-term rental unit, and therefore is not allowed under state law. Finally, the 2016 code clearly states the STRP permits may be renewed upon the payment of a $50 renewal fee to the Department of Codes Administration. And I'm, restating the 2016 law here. The 2016 code places no conditions on such renewal and no deadline by which the permit must be renewed, only that a permit may be renewed by paying $50. As outlined earlier, the notice to correct violation only required the removal of listings from 3 internet sites, did not contain any notice about the inability to renew the STRP permit or give any deadline by which such renewal should take place. The notice only directed Ms. Conrad to remove 3 advertisements for the unit before July 9th, which was completed. Mr. Conrad attempted to renew the permit prior to the July 9th deadline, but city staff would not allow him to do so. The CASA tried to renew the permit on July 9th, but zoning examiner Robert Osborne said it couldn't be done.
Your 5 minutes is up.
I apologize.
Your 5 minutes has been up, so.
I apologize.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, well, as I understand, there was no opposition here?
Correct.
Okay, so we'll close the public hearing and discuss. And before we discuss, if I could ask the zoning administrator to, the question before us is, this is an item A appeal, did the zoning administrator err in denying the short-term rental permit? Is this one in which we have the discretion to waive the 1-year period, or is this one that falls under the 1-year mandatory waiting rule?
First things first, as I flip through 2016-492, the applicable that speaks to the renewals. Yeah. You have a copy of 6.
And what I'm trying to do, Mr. Michael, is figure out what our, go ahead.
I was going to give you a preview on this.
Yeah,
for one
ahead.
thing, the original iteration of the ordinance, which took effect on April the 1st, 2015, after having been legislated throughout most of 2014, like every other iteration of the law that's come since then, has said it's a 1-year permit. A permit lasts for 1 year. The very existence of renewal language suggests that there is something to be renewed, ergo an expiration date. There's literally no version of this law, state or otherwise, that says anything other than it's a 1-year permit. So if there was operation, which includes by definition under the zoning code, advertising, meaning having the very presence of an active listing on the website for something other than more than a 30-day listing, then that's a violation of the law that takes place. And if it takes place after the expiration date and a 30-day grace period, which is legislated at a later date, a fact that works against the argument presented by the appellant here, who cites the original iteration of the law, which did not include a 30-day expiration grace period. Even with that 30-day window, once you go beyond that time, there is no permit to renew. A renewal conversation is moot. To say, can I renew the permit? No, you have no permit to renew. You are allowed to make a new application. But if upon that application it is confirmed there was an operation after the expiration date, and even if it were applicable, a 30-day grace period, then that is a basis by which under the law, including the law that was in effect on the date that this permit was issued, there is no opportunity for us to grant that permit without the 1-year wait period. By law, originally, the BZA did not have the opportunity to reduce the 1 year. So depending on the permit issuance date, they're under 492, which did give them the ability to the board to reduce. Yes, great. So a bit of good news that runs contrary to what you just heard from the appellant. They're actually governed by 2016-492. That particular iteration of the code is, sorry for the long path, Mr. Vice Chairman, the one that gave the board the ability to reduce the 1-year wait period. So based upon, again, as Mr. McBroom clarified, based upon the date that this permit was issued, they were under 492. 492 gives the board the ability to reduce that to some extent. But to be clear, there's no renewal of a permit that doesn't exist. So it's going to be a new application under these guidelines.
Correct.
And I invite any questions from either the vice chairman or other members of the board.
Sure, and we can vote to allow the new permit for them to apply as soon as in our discretion we determine.
Tuesday or a year from now or anywhere in between.
Okay. Let me see, do any of the board members have questions from the zoning board, the zoning administrator while he's at the podium? Okay, there are none, so we will, all right, discuss, board members, if anybody has anything to discuss or a motion.
Mr. Vice Chair, I apologize if I'm breaking the quorum protocol. Can I say something really quick? I'm Mr. Connor, the grandson.
No, you can't. You cannot talk. The public hearing is closed. So, sorry. Okay, members of the board, is there any discussion? Is there a motion? Mr. Lawless? I thought there
was... Sorry, I'm hitting all sorts of buttons a little bit out of order. I'm going to make a motion that we affirm the decision of the director and that we permit an application in 6 months.
Okay. Okay, so there is a motion to uphold the administrator but permit the application in 6 months. Did I state that correctly, Mr. Lawless?
Yes, sir, you did, Mr. Vice Chairman.
Okay, is there a second?
Mr. Vice Chair, this is Ashanti Davis. I second the motion.
I'm sorry, who's talking?
Ashanti.
That was Ashanti Davis.
Okay, oh, Ms. Davis, did you second?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. The motion is to uphold the decision of the zoning administrator, but to permit the applicant to make an application in 6 months. So we will vote on that. Ms. Davis, how do you vote?
In favor.
Ms. Carpenet?
I'm in favor, but can we get a clarification if that's 6 months from today?
Mr. Lawless, I assumed it was 6 months from today. Mr. Lawless, it was my assumption.
That is correct because we're hearing the appeal today.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Is that clarified for you, Ms. Carpenet?
It did, thanks. It did, thanks.
Okay. So we'll continue with the vote. Mr. Lawless, how do you vote?
In favor.
Mr. Newton?
In favor.
And I vote in favor, so that motion passes 5-0. So the for the applicant, the zoning administrator's decision was upheld, but you may submit an application 6 months from today.
That's it.
Is there any further business?
No, there's not.
Okay, we are adjourned. Thank you, members of the board.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information about this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.